Welcome to the deep dive. You're here because you're curious, you want to understand, and, well, you're looking for those key insights without getting totally bogged down in all the details.
And that's exactly what we aim for.
Today, we're doing just that. We're diving into Law of One, Session 60, question by illuminating question. It promises to be a really beautiful, insightful, and I think ultimately positive exploration.
It's a rich session, definitely. Lots of interconnected ideas, some real profound stuff that comes together in a pretty uplifting way. Excited to get into it.
So just to be clear, our whole conversation today, it's grounded entirely in the Law of One, Session 60, nothing else.
That's the plan. Stick to the source,
Our mission, you could say, is to pull out the core wisdom, those pivotal points, the ideas that can really shift perspective and present them clearly,
making it structured and hopefully valuable for you listening.
and helping us connect the dots and offering that deeper analysis, as always, is our expert.
It's genuinely a privilege to explore this material. Let's see what we find.
Okay, let's jump right in. The session starts with questions about the instrument's condition. Question 60.1 says it's basically the same as before.
Right, no major changes reported there.
Then in 60.2, the questioner wonders, could meditation and contemplation help? Could that be the way to improve things?
And Rez take is interesting. They acknowledge meditation is, well,
Hmm.
always good, right? But they seem to feel it's unlikely to fundamentally change the deeper predispositions causing the instrument's issues.
So it might soothe the surface, but there are deeper things going on?
That seems to be the implication. Session 60 definitely points towards more foundational factors at play here.
Which leads us straight into question 60.3, asking about the best way to alter these distortions.
And here's a core idea for you listening. Rhea points right back to pre-incarnative decisions, the choices made before this life about serving the infinite creator.
That fundamental choice to serve openly, Ras says it's not easily changed.
Exactly. And they actually indicate that interference isn't really desired because of this ongoing balancing process. It really speaks to the weight of those soul-level intentions we set.
Right, the balancing process. They mention recapitulating fourth density, that harmony of wisdom and compassion being helpful for this specific person.
Yes, and they acknowledge the instrument's deep dedication to service. But here's a subtle point.
Go on.
This very discussion, Ra suggests, might subtly encourage the instrument to maybe hold back just a tiny bit in each session.
To pace themselves?
Kind of, to extend their ability to serve over a longer period rather than, burning out completely. It's a gentle nudge towards sustainability, even in this intense work.
Okay, that makes sense. Then, question 60.4 seeks a really important clarification. Are the physical pains part of this balancing act?
And Ra is very clear. This is incorrect. That's a direct quote. So for your understanding, the physical discomfort, not a required part of the balancing.
So what is causing it, according to Ra?
It seems to stem from the instrument not fully accepting the pre-incarnative limitations they agreed to regarding activities during the channeling.
Ah, so the weariness, the strain, which Ra compares to harsh physical labor, it's a result of the chosen path, but not necessarily the balancing itself.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Which connects back to that earlier suggestion Ra made.
About maybe reserving a little energy.
Exactly. Suggesting the instrument might consider asking its higher self about holding back slightly. Because the current, total openness, while amazing, risks depleting resources too fast.
Potentially shortening the overall time they can serve. It's a lesson in pacing, isn't it? For any dedicated effort, really.
Absolutely. It resonates far beyond just this specific context.
Then question 60.5 mentions that they've already started spacing out the sessions more.
Yeah, Ra confirms that's been done, and then offers some key advice for the group dynamic, which is relevant for, any group work you might be involved in.
What's the advice?
Basically, don't let worry about one aspect, like the instrument's condition, unbalance the whole group effort and distract from the main purpose.
Right. It's about the whole picture. Ra says if the instrument is capable and the group's harmonious and the questions are good, then the working is well begun.
Exactly. Overstressing one part, Ra says, is just as unhelpful as, previous opposing issues they might have faced. Find the balance, trust the process.
Makes sense. Okay, moving into questions 60.6 through 60.8, the focus gets specific physical issues in the instrument's hands and arms. Can mental exercises help?
Roz asked about this, and in 60.7, the answer regarding meditation specifically aimed at fixing these physical problems is a definite no.
Which might sound a bit counterintuitive at first. Why not focus meditation there?
Well, the explanation in 60.8 is key. For you listening, Ra connects these specific physical issues directly back to those pre-incarnative choices about balancing wisdom and compassion.
The choice to experience accepting self without external approval and accepting others without expectation, to balance out a perceived lack of compassion.
Precisely. That was the entity's chosen program for this lifetime, apparently. So the recommended mental work isn't about fighting the pain directly.
It's about engaging with that core balancing act.
Yes, consciously, moment by moment, accepting the self within these limitations. Limitations, Ra says, were actually put there deliberately to achieve the right energetic tuning for this communication work.
And there's another part to that balancing act Ra mentions.
Right. Also crucial is learning to accept love and acceptance from others, which Ra notes the instrument finds a bit uncomfortable given their focus on selfless service.
So these two balancing acts, accepting self and limitation and accepting love from others, that's what Ra says will help release the pain distortion.
Exactly. Though they also add that the underlying limitations themselves are pretty much fixed for this incarnation.
Okay, question 60.9 brings up something interesting. Did the instrument already consciously knowing about these teachings help prevent the physical issues from blocking the communication earlier?
Brought this, yes, essentially, and broadens it to include the whole support group. So for you, this highlights how the group's shared understanding and awareness created the right conditions for the specific information to even come through in this session.
Collective consciousness facilitating the process. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Question 60.10 goes back to pyramids, those energizing shocks from the top. Are they continuous or in bursts?
Ray clarifies, in a properly working pyramid, the energy release is in discrete bursts, but they happen incredibly fast, so it seems almost continuous.
Oh, but
But, and this is important in pyramids where the dimensions are off, the energy release becomes irregular, not in those neat little quantas. It speaks to the precision needed.
which leads into a really wild hypothesis in 60.11 about the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, this is pretty fascinating. The questioner basically asks, could the strange effects there be caused by a big underwater pyramid releasing that third spiral energy erratically, messing with space-time for ships and planes nearby?
And a Ray's answer?
A direct yes, just yes. For you listening, just pause on that for a second. A potential link between a real-world mystery and these ancient esoteric energy principles. An underwater structure warping spacetime.
Wow. Okay, so 60.12 asks, what's the use of that kind of energy, that space-time altering effect?
Ra explains that for beings further along, like fifth density or higher, this energy is powerful. It can be used for transdimensional communication, sending information, love, light across huge distances, and also for travel.
Instantaneous travel. Question 60.13 asks about that. Is it the kind sixth density beings use, not like a slingshot?
Yes, Ra confirms it's that instantaneous type and then gives us this great analogy.
The training wheels one.
That's it. The Great Pyramid, Ra says, can be thought of as like metaphysical training wheels. As you develop internally, you learn to access these energy configurations without needing the physical pyramid shape.
It's about mastering it within yourself.
Exactly. Internal mastery eventually makes the external tool unnecessary.
Question 60.14 then asks about that specific large underwater pyramid, the one off Florida. Was that one of Ra's?
No, Ra clarifies it wasn't one of theirs. It was built with help from a different sixth density group, working with Atlanteans before Ra worked with the Egyptians.
So a deeper history there, other groups involved?
Definitely shows a broader picture of advanced civilizations and pyramid use on Earth.
And 60.15 asks, besides the Egyptians, who else did Ra work with?
Ra names the peoples of South America, says their forces were kind of divided between those two cultures back then.
Expanding the map of their work. Now, 60.16 is really interesting. It tackles why Ra seemed to emphasize the pyramid shape back then, but not so much now.
Right. Ra confirms they put very little emphasis on the physical shape now. In fact, they feel their duty now is actually to help remove distortions caused by the focus on the shape.
So they acknowledge the shapes have some effect.
Oh yeah, they don't deny the efficacy. But the idea of one optimum shape for initiation, they now see that as incorrect, even call their past thinking on it naive beliefs.
That's a big admission of evolving understanding.
It really is. And they explain why it worked better for them in their own third density experience on Venus.
How is their experience different?
They describe it as less warlike, more philosophical, focused on things like sexual energy transfer, self-other-self dynamics, spending more time with the unmanifested being. In that context, the pyramid was apparently instructive without creating the same kind of distortions seen here on Earth.
Because Earth's environment is more complex, more influences.
Exactly. Ray mentions all these differences are recorded in the Great Record of Creation. So, while things like meditation pyramids can still be helpful now,
There's a caveat.
yes, Ray suggests that given today's complex influences, progress is often best made without these training aids. Using one implies you're ready for faster learning, and if you don't integrate that learning moment to moment, the aid can actually become a negative influence.
So inner work takes precedence over external tools.
That's the strong message there.
Okay, shifting again. Question 60.17 asks about the Ark of the Covenant. What was it really?
Ra says it held what Moish considered most holy, specifically one scroll with the Ten Commandments and detailed beliefs about creation, not the two tablets we often hear about.
And its purpose.
Designed as a place for priests, those focused on service to draw power, feel the Creator's presence. But crucially,
Has a twist?
yes, Ra states the design was actually orchestrated by negative entities favoring an elite group, the sons of Levi, not the Confederation's Yahweh.
Wow, so even sacred objects can have mixed origins.
It certainly highlights that complexity. Question 60.18 asks if it was a communication device and about its power source. Ra explains it had an electromagnetic field due to its materials, making it a real object of power. But interestingly, for those with pure faith and service intent, this negatively designed power could actually become positive for them.
Intention transforms the energy.
It seems so. Ra notes this kind of mix a structure with potentially negative origins, still offering a pure path to a sincere seeker, is actually pretty common in Orthodox religious systems.
Fascinating. Is Ra say where the Ark is now in 60.19?
Nope. They decline, saying it still exists, and revealing its location would be an infringement on our free will.
Okay. Question 60.20 tackles why Earth generates unusable heat moving into fourth density, why internal heat specifically.
Ray uses a personal analogy here. Think about feeling intense anger or sadness, that feeling of burning within, even if your temperature doesn't rise immediately.
Right, emotional heat.
Prolonged emotional disharmony, Rose suggests, can make the physical body resonate with it, leading to illness. On a planetary scale, Earth resonates with our collective disharmony.
And since Earth's body functions involve internal heat for orbit and orientation.
That planetary disharmony manifests as uncontrolled expansive heat rather than, say, uncontrolled physical growth like cancer in a body. It's the planet's way of expressing the imbalance.
That's a powerful analogy. Question 60.21 asks about Earth's structure. Is it solid?
Rad describes it as having a honeycomb nature with a
Right.
solid molten center, so not uniformly dense.
Like caves or voids within. Did people live there? 60.22 asks.
Russ says yes, third density people used to live in those honeycombed areas, but not anymore. Not at the present time.
But are those areas empty now? 60.23 inquires about inner plane entities or bases.
Ra confirms it's not empty. Some non-physical interplane entities materialize there. And yes, there are bases used by both positive and negative groups from elsewhere, even abandoned cities.
Bases? What for? That's 60.24.
Used for materializing equipment needed to communicate with us here in third density, and also as, like, rest stops for small surveillance craft, but only when surveillance is requested.
And sometimes Confederation teachers use these craft to relay messages.
Partially, yes, via computerized lines. But Ra is clear in 60.25.
They don't need the tech for direct contact.
Exactly. Confederation entities can communicate directly with anyone seeking information who's reached the right vibrational level. The equipment, the automated message givers are there because, well,
People keep asking the same basic questions.
pretty much. Like the need to meditate. Raz says it's just not efficient for advanced social memory complexes to keep repeating the basics endlessly. So the Council of Saturn approved these automated systems for simple needs, saving direct contact for those ready for deeper stuff.
Makes pragmatic sense. Now, 60.26 and 27 address the flood of spiritual information and confusion over the last few decades. The questioner jokes about the law of confusion working overtime.
Yes, information coming from both positive and negative sources, leading to, as the questioner puts it, spiritual entropy and apathy in some seekers. Ra confirms this is significant.
They respond to calls, but if the understanding is low,
They can only offer the basics. The original thought, meditation, service to others. The Orion group faces similar limits, and if that basic info isn't practiced,
stays in the head.
right, becomes just mental clutter. Then if you ask again, you just get the same basic info repeated. which can lead to weariness.
So the key is putting it into practice. That's how you move beyond the basics.
That's the core message. Practice avoids the repetition.
Quick one. 60.28 asks if chakras work like the pyramid energy funnel.
Simple answer from Ra, no. Different systems.
Okay. Question 60.29 asks about mummification's purpose beyond just preserving the body.
Ross says the intentions were mixed. While many involved felt it was positive service, the actual uses were of a non-positive order of generation.
But they don't elaborate.
No, citing the need to keep the positive-negative energy balance on Earth. They do stress again that the individuals involved believed they were serving others, shows the complexity.
Question 60.3 asks Ra to name the civilization that helped them with pyramids back on Venus.
Ra respectfully declines, saying those beings have returned to the Creator and are outside of time now. A gesture of reverence.
All right, nearly there. 60.31 asks about using a pendulum over energy centers. What does back and forth mean?
Weak back and forth means a partial blockage, but a strong back and forth. That indicates an overstimulated chakra trying to compensate for some other imbalance, which isn't actually helpful.
Okay, good distinction. And the final question, 60.32, is just asking if there's anything else to make the instrument more comfortable.
Yes, a compassionate closing question, and Ra ends with words of encouragement.
Be merry, my friends. All is well.
Your conscientiousness is to be recommended. We leave you in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. Rejoice then, and go forth in the peace and in the glory of the one infinite Creator. I am Ra Adonai.
What an incredibly dense session, just packed with information. Session 60, from personal energy work to planetary mechanics, deep history, the nature of service. Wow.
It really covers a lot of ground, doesn't it? For you listening, some key threads are definitely the weight of pre-life choices, the nuance in balancing service and self-care, the limits of external tools without inner work.
And the reality of unseen influences, both positive and negative, plus those mind-bending connections like the Bermuda Triangle or the Ark's history.
It constantly reminds us there's so much more going on beneath the surface of everyday reality.
For me, that connection between the instrument's specific physical challenges and their soul's agreement to balance wisdom and compassion, that was really striking. How our deepest struggles might actually be part of a chosen curriculum for growth.
Absolutely. And connecting that to your own life, maybe the takeaway is to gently inquire, what limitations or challenges am I facing, and could there be a deeper balancing act at play? What is my inner landscape asking me to accept or integrate?
That's definitely something to sit with. A really powerful thought to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Law of One, Session 60. We hope it shed some light and sparked further curiosity for you.
Namaste. May your seeking continue to be fruitful.